All right. What's up, everybody? Thanks again for joining us again at the Iconic Podcast. We got the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Miller. Dude, I'm so pumped of having you here. Nick and I have been talking about this for the last couple weeks.
Massive episode.
Having you on. We want to hear your story. I know you come from humble beginnings and have so much going on for you. Even now, after so many years of coming out of high school, I know you're essentially somebody we went to school in Secaucus. So, man, we want to get the details. Want to hear how you've been. Want to hear your background, and we also want to highlight today what it's like to come from humble beginnings and really just making your situation the best out of it and really achieving success. Because, man, I'm super excited for you. I can't wait to see what you're going to do in the next couple of years. But for those that don't know you, man, how would you describe yourself?
Oh, man, that's a difficult question. Very goal-oriented, very straightforward. Mm-hmm. To the stranger on the street, probably a little cold, emotionless. Stoic, I guess you can say, but I'm someone who's going to get the job done. That's how I describe myself.
And I feel like that's pretty much all that you've showed throughout the different companies and stuff that you've started, which we really want to dive into. But bro, firstly, for the local supporters, let's talk a little bit about Secaucus High School, what it was like for you, like some of the interesting stories. What can you let us in on with that?
Yeah, I mean, in short, I was just a rebellious kid. I grew up with my mom. She's a single mother of 4. Got kicked out, I guess we could say here. I moved to Secaucus. About 4 weeks later, Hurricane Sandy hit, wiped everything out. Right before Hurricane Sandy hit, my mother had won the lottery as well for like $100,000 in a scratch off. So it's a really big deal for her and our family. It was like the most amount of money we could have ever seen then.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I moved to Secaucus around that time. I lived behind the high school, actually, in one of these apartment buildings that they had with my father, who was not the best role model at the time.
Yeah.
And I mean that's how we made it over to Secaucus. I had a lot of issues in high school that a lot of people didn't probably realize. And when I first moved to Secaucus, I was just in such amazement at like the high school, the way you guys had your cafeterias, the way that I don't know, it was just a new place for me. It's not like I came from. We just had a different environment.
Where did you come from? Are you originally from Jersey, Frank?
From Moonachie, New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, I got you. And it's funny because I know that there's a big difference between the different towns in the area. Like people from North Bergen would be like, I can't believe you guys have like a PAC center and stuff.
Literally, yeah.
Every town has their own stuff going on, but every family and every house has their own story and their own situation.
Right.
You know
very,
what I mean?
very true.
You can be anywhere and have a completely different story than your neighbor next door. I mean, it's not just about the materials or the income level or if you have a full home or not, So everybody has a different story.
100%.
Absolutely.
But I grew up in Moonachie with a small population of like 3,000 people, and we had a lot of trailer parks. Probably like 1,000 of those 3,000 people were trailer parks. Most of our kids in school were on food stamps and whatnot, and it was just a different environment. And plus, whatever I grew up in internally with my family was just a little different.
I was going to ask you, in Moonachie specifically, were those the trailer parks that are right next to the Teterboro?
Yeah.
Those are the ones,
yeah,
right?
A lot of my friends.
That's crazy. I didn't know there was such a big trailer park population, if that's even like a thing out in Moonachie. That's crazy.
Yeah, right? It's so close, but it's just so different. I mean, Moonachie's obviously upgraded now. It's it's a beautiful town. It's just getting better.
Yeah.
Like I said, every house is different. For us, it wasn't easy. I think I grew up above a barbershop for most of my time in Moonachie and didn't have a bedroom really until I was probably 17. In Secaucus, actually. My first bedroom was a pull-down attic.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, it's so weird, perception, right?
And nobody would know that either. Nobody would know that because I wouldn't really show anybody where I lived. I'd be kind of self-conscious about it.
Frank, it's so weird how sometimes high school could be such an illusion, right? For somebody like myself. If someone were to tell me, describe Frank Miller, I was like, oh, he was the popular kid. Fuck, he's freaking killing it. Gets all the girls. This is the vision I used to have because I didn't know anybody like that. But it's so interesting, as years pass by and you kind of pick up the veil and it's all misconceptions. I feel like at some point, and that kind of goes into how you came to be where you're at now. Obviously, you're CEO of Luly. You're gathering a lot of investors. What were you doing after high school? What? How did you end up here?
Did you decide to go to college?
Yeah. What was that whole?
So I moved in with my uncle when I was 16. This changed my life. I was living in Secaucus still, and my dad. So my mother, we didn't have any money. My father, we didn't have any money. Then I finally started talking to my cousin Natalie, after years of not seeing her, maybe 10 plus years, because of just family issues and stupid stuff that we didn't understand.
Word.
So one day she picks me up to go to the beach, and I fall asleep on her speakers as she's blasting like electric music. And she's like, "What's going on?" She sees me coming into her car with like ripped shoes and shoes with holes, and just like can kind of tell like
Something's up.
something's up.
Yeah.
Long story short, she gets me to move in with my uncle, and I mean, my uncle is very successful.
Right.
I'd say, multimillionaire. He owns a concrete company, builds a lot of buildings.
Yeah.
He's just very successful, like humble, hardworking guy, and I learned a lot of concepts from him. And I think that's what made my entire experience. If that never happened, I don't think I'd be where I'm at today at all.
So that made like a massive impact on your life.
Yeah,
At 16, 17 years old, right?
Yeah, and there's just more that comes with it. At first when I moved with my uncle, a lot of my family I distanced myself from because I didn't want to be in that environment anymore. And that would they would look at me in a bad light.
Right.
Like, oh, you're the rich kid now,
Yeah.
Right.
So you go from, I want to say being poor, but being poor, you go from being having no money,
It's safe
having
to say,
to use a Kohl's credit card to get your clothes and plan certain things out.
Yeah.
You go from doing that to living with your uncle who has a Mercedes and he's got his business going, and you just kind of see how things are. It's just like a whole shock.
Right.
It's a shock. You see two sides of life, and it causes a lot of confusion too with my uncle because he's not used to raising a kid that comes from such a fucked up background.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So it's like sometimes we would get into arguments. A lot of times we would get into arguments, and it would just be a huge miscommunication. Yeah, it's just like you can't fix a troubled kid by just throwing him in a nice house with nice people. There's just so many years of trauma to fix and.
For sure.
And I would even say, man, this is what I think impresses me the most from someone who comes from a troubled background, like you describe it, right? You come from very humble beginnings, and you had a really bad mindset. It's safe to say at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm more impressed at the fact that you're living with your uncle, like you said, multimillionaire. You have all these nice commodities, things you probably were never used to. What made you never coast? What made you go you know what? I want to have a name for myself. I want to expand. I want to grow as a person.
Where did that happen?
Yeah.
From my uncle, honestly. I joined the army at 18, and I hid injuries when I joined the army.
Right.
I had really bad back problems, and halfway through or so, 5-6 weeks through basic, I couldn't move my leg. It just went shocking pain down on my balls, and I had to get an epidural, and I had to go to chiropractor 5 times a week for a year.
Damn.
And that back pain changed my life after the military.
Right.
It's I came home and I was very depressed when I came home.
Yeah.
And the back pain just kind of turned me into a different person because it stopped me from being able to do anything physically. And none of the doctors would listen to me because I looked so healthy on the exterior.
Right.
So after the army, me and my uncle would just get into these arguments, and I would go to college, Bergen Community College, and I'd be in so much pain that I would wear a tank top and shorts during the winter. And I would get up every 5 minutes because the nerve pain would make my legs start shaking.
Oh, dude, that's
so
so
that
tough.
Obviously changed me, and it was a lot. Me and my uncle ended up having a falling out, and I ended up moving into my friend's basement in Fort Lee, New Jersey, when I was about 19 years old. And it wasn't a pretty basement, but I'm so appreciative for that person.
You had a roof
to
on
this
your
day,
head.
But I was in bad conditions. It's just a really fucked up basement. And,
Question for you, Frank. Did you ever, at any point in time, succumb to any sort of drug to kind of help you cope with that? Because I know a lot of people that have pain. They go on perks and shit. Straight up.
No. So for me, I didn't take pills, not even an Advil, until I was 17, 16 maybe, because I had people in my family that were into drugs. So I never liked that. And for me, I'd smoke here and there, right?
Of course, yeah.
But for me, I'm you have to perform at a high level. Everybody's got something fucked up with them, right? This is what you guys are going to learn as you interview more people in business. And for me, I'm nothing. Maybe you're going to interview somebody that's on the Forbes list.
There's always bigger fish.
There's always bigger fish, man. And you're going to learn that each one of them has a section of things that's fucked up. For me, I'll never let a substance or anything take over my mind.
Right.
I don't care what it is.
That's good. That's
I'll
massive.
just stop doing a substance. If I'm smoking weed or something like this, I need to stop. Just to fucking say fuck you, mind, it's not happening. I will. I'll sit there
just to kind of maybe prove to yourself that you're in control.
Nothing will take control of my mind.
Exactly, that's massive.
No, nothing.
You gotta never lose touch with yourself.
It's not about myself. It's because I'm responsible for other people.
Right.
So
people that depend on you, right?
Yeah. So I think that's another big thing too. Is I always think about other people. I just always think about other people. I never think about only covering for myself. I'm responsible for many families. I'm responsible for many children. I'm responsible for my own family.
Of course.
The decisions that I make have a ripple effect in the position that I'm in. So it's
God bless.
never about me. You know?
Yeah.
I like how you said that it has a ripple effect.
Yeah.
So you're 19 years old. Now you're living in your boy's basement in Fort Lee, New Jersey.
Yeah. What happens?
Where did
then?
what happens then? Like, where do things kind of go?
I start working construction after about a year of living in my
With a
basement.
fucked up back, you're doing construction.
So I start hanging like 70 stories in the sky in New York doing window washing and repair.
I remember this.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Making like
I remember that shit,
$15 an hour.
$15 an hour?
Yep.
To being up there in New York City, you're getting paid $15 an hour.
I was 103 stories hanging from 2 ropes with no basket.
I thought they made
I was so
bread.
desensitized to it. I was only making $15. People in the buildings would tell me like, "Oh, you must be making a killing."
God dang, that's crazy.
Like,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
That's wild.
Like I'm barely making minimum wage.
So, look, I got fired from there at the end of the day. Great people helped me out to get the
course.
job. Somebody that was my old neighbor that was with my uncle.
Yeah.
Great businessman. We're actually going to conduct business now. But I got fired because I was just a young kid who was telling everybody to do things better in their life, pretty much. I started calculating like the cost per job, how many jobs we can go to,
Of course.
how much time we're wasting.
Yeah.
And it started to become a problem for me because I would kind of have people telling me like, you're not paid to think, you're just paid to do this. that.
Right.
And that was like, for me, it was never really going to work. It was always going to be falling out like that then.
Right.
So after that job, I got hired in a concrete job. We were just fixing roadways. I was there for about a year and a half. And then COVID hit. And right when COVID hit, I had gotten sick right before it. And I told my supervisor or whatever, I can't come in. And he's like, take off until Monday, like trying to punish me for this.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like because you're not getting paid.
Oh,
There's no
yeah.
PTO. It's like you show up or you don't get paid.
Yeah. So then I didn't go back from there. And that's when I started my real estate business. And at the time, I had started my real estate business a couple months before I left the job. And they would always hear me talking about it, all these guys, and they would laugh about it. They would just giggle.
That's
and
how
they'd
it,
be like,
that's what it is.
People
Whatever.
don't like it when you're doing something else and you're
Especially
on
when
the
you have big
come up.
dreams, right?
And
don't
at,
like
at
that.
this job, I was making great money. I'm very blessed that they gave me the opportunity. I love these people still to this day.
course.
But I was making about $76 an hour, being 22 years old.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Like
old.
paving roads.
Yeah. Well, I was doing the manual concrete work.
Of course.
And now in my head, I knew that I was doing this, but I was destroying my body, that I already had problems with my back.
Right.
So I wanted to get in and out or to upgrade to some type of position where I can improve the situation in a mass scale.
Absolutely.
So guess what happens again? We end up getting fired for thinking too much.
Damn.
I start calculating how much concrete we need per hole, how many holes we need to do per day, what can be done,
You're
on the
always
weekly
thinking like
basis.
ahead, like the next step.
And just to be told like, you're not paid to think, or like, go use this machine. And because
Right.
I don't know how to use this machine, it means that I don't know how to calculate the concrete that we're using and maybe increase our earnings by,
X amount,
Yeah.
right?
God only knows, yeah.
Sounds like you always had like a business acumen for this stuff. You were always
exactly.
like
I didn't want to
thinking
get paid by the hour, even if it was $100 an hour. I wanted to get paid by the efficiency. How quick and
ahead. Like you were result driven. You weren't
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we started the real estate business.
So just to be clear, that was
COVID, like right before COVID.
that was
before
COVID,
COVID.
and the name of the company at that point was what? It was
So right before COVID, I just started some random real estate business with my buddy, and we did this for a year. He even moved into my place. I mentioned to him about 3 months before we canceled it and ran it down. I said to him, "Hey, listen, I want to start a data company because the software that we were using was horrible. I missed the $30,000 deal because I forgot to call the guy back because we were talking to like 200 people per day, and the
Right.
software was garbage. It would just lose all the follow-ups.
Was this prior to Florida, or were you still living in Jersey?
No, this is still in Jersey.
Oh shit. Okay.
So I told my buddy a couple months before I left, I was like, hey, listen, $7,000. You give me $7,000, I give you 50%. Okay.
it's a fucking steal.
That's great. He goes, I don't think
When you're
this-
small though, you just don't know. dude.
You don't
No,
know. Yeah.
I don't know. I have no financial temperament. I don't know what's going on. $7,000, I give you 50%. I'll go into this business. No, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. Okay. I stay in business with him for 3 more months. We're not making anything out. I tell him again before I leave. I go, $7,000, I give you 50%.
For the company, yeah.
No, it's not bad. Okay. So one day, like 2 weeks after that, I just pick up and leave. The same day, I leave the next day to Florida with like $5,000 in my pocket.
Why Florida?
Because I had some friends that were already there that were doing the business that I was doing.
Okay.
And I just wanted to isolate myself in a place where I knew nobody.
Right.
So I went on the outskirts of Florida with a couple $1,000s in my pocket. and just became a psychopath in that apartment. And that is when I started the real estate CRM Simplify REI. I'm talking about, I drove maybe 500 to 1,000 miles over 10 months on my car.
God damn.
Like,
That's like nothing.
I did not leave my house. I'm telling you, like, I was the TikTok typical story where they tell you, like, you're reading books every day. You're meditating.
Yeah. I remember, bro.
I was in that time. Like,
dude, I used to see you highlight all the pages, man, because you used to always put it up on your story.
And I was
yeah.
on some extra shit with this, too, because this was a year after I had my first. I was with this girl for 6 years, and we had gotten to, like, she ended up, like, cheating after the big breakup.
Right.
And so this was like the year and a half after that, to where it was like even more like positioned in my brain. Like,
oh my God,
I'm
you were
fucking
just
coming
like,
for all you motherfuckers.
I gotta dial the fuck in.
Like, I'm coming now.
Absolutely, yeah.
So run me through
It does
this, though,
something to you. It does something to you.
I do want to get some details here as you continue the story, because I'm really intrigued. So prior to Simply, right? Simplify or
Simplify REI.
Simplify REI.
Yeah.
What was the business you were doing real estate specifically? Were you just calling people, like, trying to sell their homes or
Yeah,
wholesale?
so we were just like cold calling homeowners literally to try and flip the contract. We were trying to wholesale houses.
Oh, okay,
in Baltimore,
that makes sense.
and we tried it in New York. It was just a mess, and it's just not a business that I would be interested in.
Right.
And I learned a lot from it, and it's where I started, but
Right.
it's not something that I would be interested in.
And this is where it kind of clicked for you. You're like, screw that. And you told me earlier, you're like, screw it. I want to do data. That was like was your thing.
Yeah.
And you kind of learned from it because of the whole missing that one deal. So then you're like, screw it. I'm going to build a CRM.
Yeah, and then I built the CRM software, exactly, Simplify REI.
Okay. So now from that perspective, right? For those people that don't know, what was this CRM specifically designed for? And why were you driving so many miles across Florida? Like, what was, give me a little bit of the logistics there.
I mean, I locked myself in my house, and I built the CRM, and I just...
How did you build it, Frank?
Yeah, word. How did you even come up with
How did you build that?
Sit down and build this shit.
Because I worked in our software for like, I worked hand in hand in the software that we were using for a couple months. So I knew what needed to be done and what needed to not be done.
Right.
And then also by me working in our office, I learned who to hire, how to hire, and who not to hire.
Got it.
How to observe character traits, which is just something that it was ingrained in me since I
Yeah.
was a child from my unique background.
You just always had like a good read on people type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't actually sit there and physically bang the hammer or develop the code.
Yeah.
I vet the developers in a very certain way, which I'll get into when we get into like Luly's side.
Yeah.
To where I'm just like very good at knowing who to keep around and who not to keep around.
Right.
And I have a very strict set of standards with that I don't fold for anybody, and I just have a very strong belief in that system, because if you just follow that in your life, you have a certain set of values and you really stick to them, you're only going to end up with people around you that have that same set of values at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You might get burned the first couple of times, it might suck, there's going to be points where you're like, damn,
That's
shit,
life.
I become a
That's
piece of
life.
shit too, but if you don't,
Right.
and you stick to those values, you're really going to end up with just a good set of people.
Dude, that's awesome. And I wanted to just ask you real quick, going back to like we're talking about like how you moved down to Florida, the whole nine. Like, how much would you say it's a hack? I always hear people saying it's a massive hack to just get out of your hometown.
Changed my life. I would never have been able to do it.
It just changed your whole environment. Like,
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, it's everybody around you in this town and any town you grow up in.
Any small town.
They
It's
have
just-
preconceived notions about you.
certainly.
They do,
Okay,
yeah.
so like, how are you gonna turn into Frank the aggressive partier, this guy, that
Yeah.
guy, to Frank the educated data guy? Like, if every day when you're trying to make that progression and that change, there's somebody in your ear showing or doing something around you or telling you who you used to be that you want to stray away from. It's
Right.
very hard. It's like swimming in a pool with like
It is,
full
yeah,
clothes. And
That's
it's
like for example, if you're an alcoholic, let's say,
Yes,
and then
exactly.
you say, "Hey, I want to give up alcohol," and then someone's
They're
like,
like,
"Yeah,
yeah,
but you
right,
said that
yeah.
5 times
Exactly.
already."
And that does so much more to you mentally than what you realize.
Frank, I couldn't agree
Oh
more.
my God, yeah.
That's
So
true. It
much
just
more
does
to
something.
you.
Because you can't, it literally means you can't run away from it, because you're in town. You're going to hear someone said what.
Exactly.
And keep
I mean,
reminding
like,
you.
we're so young. You really just like, people are like, what if I don't like the move? You just move back, you know? It's not the end of the world. It really is something that I think changes your life. You just move out of your hometown if you really are feeling like you're stuck in a place. You get a new job for a little bit. Maybe you lose a couple of grand. Maybe you don't. Maybe you
Big
come
deal.
back. Yeah,
Of course.
there's just more in life to really see what's out there. You never know.
How do you stomach that? And what do you think was driving you at that moment where you make the jump, you're like, screw it, I'm going to dial the fuck in the back of your head, was failure
I
always-
needed to change my environment. I could
Yeah.
not be around after that breakup happened with my ex and the whole cheating thing and
Yeah.
whatever. It was like, I didn't even want to be in the same state as her. I was so damaged in terms
jaded,
of
yeah, you were jaded.
like literally, I
After
did
6
not
years,
even want
yeah.
to be in the same state as this girl. Like we were even planning to like talk and like work it out. I didn't like it would make me
Right.
sick to even.
Was it just her, or would you say you also maybe had some toxic friends that maybe at the time you didn't realize, but they weren't contributing
Oh,
to
you
like
know, I
your...
don't want to make it seem like that she was such a horrible piece.
She
of
might have
shit.
been the
Like,
cherry on top.
Look, like let's make it clear. I'm not Mr. Perfect. I did plenty. of fucked up
Everybody
things,
does.
okay?
Everybody does. Yeah.
I'm just telling you what happened that
That
made
led
me
you to
think like
move
this.
and all
So
that.
let's not. Yeah, nobody has to think like.
Yeah.
Oh, she's just a piece of shit and she did this. Like, I came from a background where I didn't
Right.
know what love was, and I think she did too. So
Okay.
it was like we kind of had to learn that
Yep.
through trial and error, and it was
Yeah.
just a huge mess.
It was a
of
tornado,
course.
yeah.
It was just a mess of shit.
Man.
So, yeah, that's the move was for a combination of reasons, mostly to better myself and
Of
to
course.
not be in a place where I need to listen to anybody tell me who I am, how I am, or where I am,
Right.
because it was just too important to me to change.
I feel like that really molded you, right? Because obviously you always had aspirations to be someone better. You knew like, hey, you were already business driven. So simply REI comes out. You're working on that. You're traveling across all of Florida. What was your mind at that point? You're like, fuck it. Was it always just I want to just make money, or was it like,
No.
hey, I want to contribute back to society with this product?
No, because after what happened with my back, it just showed me how important your health is.
Of course.
Right? So that was the first thing. And then I started having some kidney problems, and I
Shit.
dealt with like many scary situations to where money just became money.
Of course.
And when you start to deal with health issue, you understand what I mean. It's like you'll never understand until you experience it. But it's just everything's going to kind of come into you in a different light. It's like
Yeah.
If you don't have your health, you literally have nothing.
it's a trip. It's a trip to say the least when that experience happens.
Oh
to
my
you.
god. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it was a lot when I did this and when I moved to Florida. I stayed by myself. I isolated myself entirely. Like I'm telling you, I isolated when I say this, I mean like
Yeah.
straight-
You were like in a
You went in
hole,
straight like
yeah.
monk mode type
yeah. Like I had an Excel sheet that tracked every book that I read, how many times I read, like how many pages I read in a certain session, what time. I would track how many minutes on average per week. Like I made a whole like a
Dude,
nerd sheet,
you were like a robot.
like ADHD
Yeah.
robot.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that I
thing. Do you have ADHD?
Yeah, and that's why I did this Excel sheet.
Right.
So I can
Okay.
I can remember the data and
Right,
not feel
right.
like I went in one ear out the other.
How do you... Okay, so I think that this is a very massive question that I have to ask
Yeah,
you
yeah.
because and by the way, I hate people that diagnose themselves with shit.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that I have ADHD too.
Mm.
And I'm not just saying that because of like one little incident, but like I've read online things about people that have ADHD and I'm like, Nick, that's fucking you.
Right.
So what's something that you could give towards like an entrepreneur that might have ADHD? Because in the
You need to lean into it. You need to lean into it. If
Right.
you genuinely have it, like you need to lean into whatever it is that your tick might be or
Yeah,
your,
you're right.
your
I like how
thing
you
is.
said
Like
that.
for me, I take showers. I take a lot of showers. I take like 3 to 5 showers a day. For real.
That's good,
if
though.
I have a work call and it's stressed out, I'll go and take
You
a
take a
shower. I'll
shower.
take a bath after. Like
Nice,
for me, it's
dude.
a sensory reset.
Shit.
Right? And I also like for me, I work at nights
Okay.
because I hyperfixate on the projects that I'm in, like certain details. It's like, and at night my brain turns on. During the day, I'm probably doing like half as productive at
Yeah,
night,
yeah.
or less.
I love how you said that because even on those rare occasions where this is gonna sound weird, but like even when I'm up at like 3:34, I'll like open up the computer to get some editing done or
Yeah.
whatever, and like you just hit this different state of flow that like someone like me I just can't hit
Right.
throughout my regular
I
day.
think everybody, ADHD or no ADHD, you just need to lean into who you are and what works
Right.
best for you and your body, and not what everybody else tells you. Like I don't wake up at 7 a.m. Sometimes I sleep in until 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Some like it's just everybody's different. I'll work for 24 hours sometimes on shift, sometimes 36 hours, and then I'll sleep
I
for
think you
3
just
days.
did that recently, right?
Yeah, and I'll sleep for 3 days.
And I
'cause
think
don't
that's the
wanna be
beauty of
bothered.
entrepreneurship. You don't have anyone like I mean, of course, you have to like put work out, but you don't have someone with a fire under your ass like, yo, Frank, get the fuck up. It's
Yeah.
gonna be
Oh,
8
and
a.m.
of course I meet all my deadlines, and I'm very hard working towards them. But
Of
my
course.
point is just like I know my strengths. I know where I'm going to work the best. I know where I'm going to work the
Works.
most efficient. So it's like everything I'm doing, I am working for the most efficient way in my own
Right.
way that my body can.
That
do.
fits you. That fits
I
you.
love what you said though, because I think that's like such a misconception now that we see from like the hustle culture and like what's portrayed in social media. Everyone's like, you got to get up at fucking 5 a.m. You got to go for a run, do like 10 yoga sessions, and then you got to do
You
a
gotta do 10
meditation.
yoga
Yeah, it's
sessions.
crazy, and it just comes to reality. It's like as an entrepreneur, you're not really on a set schedule, but you know you have to bust your ass all day. maximize your productivity.
When I started reading, I took this like test to show me what I'm weak in and what I'm good at. And then I used to plan the books that I'd read a month ahead of time. It was like 10 books a month, and it would all be in different sections of
10 books a month.
Yeah, and it'd be all in what I'm like weak in. Like,
right.
Because usually you only want to read what you're good at.
Yeah.
And how many people around you are willing to actually take an accountability test of what you're good at, what you're bad at, or
No
sit
one.
down and tell you.
It's a tough pill to
right.
swallow
Like,
for a lot of
hey,
people.
you know,
Right.
you're good at this, but you're horrible at that.
It
There's not
is.
many people that'll do it. So that's how I would plan it, and that I think gave me really good growth month over month. And I didn't continue reading like this forever. You know,
Of course. It's
this is
unsustainable.
like maybe like a 6 to 8 month stint where I ended up reading like 150 books over the time, and it was just like really great tools to add into my tool set.
Dude, that's
Go into that, because I feel like for a lot of avid readers, I'm sure our audience are people that obviously want to learn, and that's why they tune in. What are some of the books you think right now, top of your head? I know it's quite a bit of reading, but like were the most impactful in your life?
Most impactful book in my life is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Oh, that one's a classic.
He's a legend, David Goggins.
He's a
It was a
fucking
book
legend.
I got. I think he might have came out 2017 on Christmas, and I read it on Christmas Eve, and I spent the next like 4 Christmas Eves alone every Christmas Eve and read that book over again.
Yep.
Because I was so thankful for the changes that it brought to my life on the first time that I read it.
You have a
Really?
similar background with him though, because he had the fucked up knees, and he had to go to
Yep.
the Navy SEAL training
I
multiple times.
remember the first page of this
sickle
book,
cell.
like a picture in my head. You know, it was like
Eh.
I just remember so much about that book.
Dude, that's powerful, dude.
Well, I mean, for somebody like you, man, having back issues, I can't relate, obviously. And you know, God bless, like, you know, for anybody, never to have issues, because like you said, health is so important. I mean, just being able to push out of that, man, is not easy. And to still have the worth ethic you have, it's easy to roll over once you're in that state.
Yeah, I mean, there have been many times to where I'd even have to choose of, do I pay my health insurance or do I pay my business? You know?
Yep.
And for my first year in business, I chose my business. I was putting my health second. And it's not something I recommend to anybody, but when you're really going for a certain thing, there's going to be times of imbalance, and there's going to be a lot of answers that you don't want to hear. And that's not something I recommend to anybody that's watching this or hears this. It's just the decisions that I made, you know.
Damn,
At that time. And dude, it sounds like you're, I gotta say, man, I know it's sometimes scary, right? You know, you're in those points where it's like health insurance versus your business, and you gotta hope you're right in that scenario. And for yourself right now, you said money's money. What is driving you now? It sounds like you're more financially stable, of course. You know, you could obviously afford your health insurance now. Things are a lot better right now for you.
It was unpaid for a month because I forgot to put on auto pay, but yes, you got it.
What is driving Frank now? Like, let's get into Luly, because I feel like that's your baby now.
Yeah.
Luly, how long has it been around for?
2 years. Year and a half, maybe 2 years.
And the transition was simply REI into Luly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
what was the, like, how did that idea come into your head to create this kind of thing?
I mean, I had a real estate CRM before, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I saw how calls go in and out.
Yeah.
I was pretty much a therapist for 150 plus businesses and saw over 100 of them fail and close their doors or go bankrupt, you know, whatever the equivalent of that would be. So I was the person who controlled the software. I saw everything that happened in your company.
You're like a Salesforce 2.0 for real estate.
Exactly, but I was the one who, in Salesforce, I owned the Salesforce, essentially. You know what I mean? So I saw how many calls you made every day, how many got picked up, how many didn't get picked up, how much money you made, how much money you didn't make. And
so Frank, your product, I saw this awesome video on Instagram, which I'm gonna flash up on the screen so anyone can see it. But it's a video of you testing out your product. You have your phone in your hand and you're speaking into it. You're showing like the capabilities of Luly. So you've created this model where it will, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, like make calls for you in a very human way. And it will set up appointments, right?
Exactly. So we're focused on utilizing that within healthcare settings.
Settings, so that's your niche.
So we have a franchise in Mexico right now.
Yeah.
And we're working on some hospitals internationally and some within the U.S.
Where do the leads come from? Does someone have to manually input those, and then Luly will start like putting itself out there? How does that work?
So leads would be more if it was used for marketing. What we're using it for right now is pretty much what we're doing is, so for this Bulgarian hospital that we're signing with, we go in, we take all of their call recordings across all of their departments, and then we'll take it and we'll upload it and essentially create an agent that has the same characteristics and values and personality and rule set that they do. So like if it was Chick-fil-A, the bot would say, "My pleasure." It would follow everything down to the T. And those agents pick up the phone to eliminate 90% or more of what humans need to do on the phone. So they're going from a 15-person call center to a 1 or 2-person call center.
Wow.
So that's great.
That's smart.
And a lot of
That's
people will
super
be like,
powerful.
you're taking away jobs from humans. But the way that I'm seeing it here, and I really don't give a fuck about those people's opinions much, unless they come with a logical argument.
Yeah.
Right.
My thing here is we're increasing patient quality of care, which
Right.
now I'm excited because
how'd you
I
get to
care about
Bulgaria?
healthcare. My passion is in healthcare.
Yeah, because you have a history.
I
You
have
have a history.
articles
This
going
all makes
back.
sense now. You really put the pieces together. For
I
me
have
now.
articles going back 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
about the reason why I started Simplify, and I even said this at the beginning, was to eventually utilize AI within healthcare and create databases that allow them to quickly communicate for faster insurance decisions and healthcare decisions.
Dude,
So
that's
now
gonna
that
be
we're
so
using
sick.
Luly, we're able to create all these different things to where we can capture how long is a patient in each surgery, what medication are they taking, what is the time frame for recovery, and
Yep.
we're going to be tracking tens of thousands of data points, and we're going to be eliminating the need of doctors or nurses or even front desks in
Right.
hospitals
Taking
to
up
be
the
wasting
time
time,
to
when they could be treating patients.
Yep.
And you know what's even crazy when I see this
Which
big
makes
issue?
me, honestly, it just makes me very happy to be utilizing it in that manner.
Yeah,
I
in
don't
that
care
realm.
to utilize it in a sales manner or something
No,
like this.
yeah.
It needs to be something to me that I feel is changing something.
Like you're making a change in the
making
world for sure.
Yeah.
That also
And,
well
and
said.
Frank, one thing that really sticks out to me with this, and I feel like you see it all the time, right? It's like when you're working with a human, there's a set schedule. There's not that 24/7 hotline. I could even see the use case for like suicide hotlines, like EMTs. Like when I call 911 dispatcher, you know how many times people are busy and they can't dispatch that data because they're in the middle of another 100 calls. People are getting it at the same time. Having that, I feel like would source it so much easier.
Or even when I would go to the doctor out of network
Yeah.
when I was not doing well. Why do we have doctors and hospitals not sharing the technology and data within each other?
Right.
Why is there a profit wall between certain hospitals that aren't in agreement?
Right.
So your
They're
patient
like
comes
they're
in and
gatekeeping it.
He's like
Yeah.
dying, and
For-
it's like all of a sudden, yeah.
Why is the system set up like this? There's a lot of changes that need to be made, and that's what I want to go in there and just slowly start to edge my way forward. And I want to create a healthcare type of empire.
So what's the future for your product? Are you just trying to make it even more human, or is it at a point now where you're like, I just want to get this out to
Well,
different
we're
business?
working on a contract right now with a hospital in New York/New Jersey that does, I'll say, over $1 billion in revenue a year. So
You can't name them yet, right?
no, I can't name them
Okay.
yet.
You can tell us off camera though.
We got about a dozen different healthcare places that are a pretty big name that we're working
Yeah.
on because of the political connections that we'll have in this and the investors that
Yeah.
are coming on board. And I just want to slowly start getting into these healthcare spots, and I want to begin with being a voice solution. But as far as like what the future holds and where the end is, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll bring in the ability to read scans and help
Right.
identify those faster. Maybe we'll increase the communications between hospitals' databases and create a bridge to where they can do that. Maybe utilizing the blockchain and
Of course.
There's just a
I
lot
think
of-
it's safe to say there's plenty of opportunity.
There's plenty of
in that
opportunity in
realm, yeah.
healthcare. But my end goal is to increase the patient quality of care.
Right.
And maybe, at the end of the day, before I'm dead, I'd like to be able to say that I did a massive, impact on,
Of course.
on that, and that anybody was able to go to the doctor for whatever problem that
Yeah.
they had and not have to think about, do I have the money from work this month or do I not,
You know what spot I almost feel like just like thinking of markets in your use case here, like I just heard a really horrible story of one of my buddies, his girlfriend was feeling really ill in Canada and he wasn't able to even get into the emergency room.
Yeah.
I could only imagine like having that, like those recordings, that data, even that patient history where it's accessible via, every hospital network. Call in, Luly picks up, hey, I see you, this is your background. Because keep in mind, she had gallbladder issues from the beginning. So like if that was, irrelevant, that could have been like, hey, it might be this. Go take
Yeah.
this. Luly could, essentially handle that
There's
use
so
case.
many opportunities. There's
It's
just so many
insane.
things.
No, I really like this idea, man, because I thought it was still kind of more to the first business you were running, driving revenue, getting leads, cold calling.
I don't care for any of that, to be honest.
That's fucking crazy.
And I think that because you're so goal oriented and you have kind of like a mission, that obviously all that other stuff like money's going to be a byproduct of it. At this point, you just got your focus set on getting more hospitals in your network.
Right.
et
Yeah,
cetera.
I mean, like when you're getting into business at the beginning, the first 100K is a bitch, right? And then they say
Yeah.
after that, you kind of start to figure things out. And everybody likes money in a different way.
Of course.
Right now, I'm engaged to my beautiful fiance. I'm expecting a boy.
Congratulations.
congrats.
That's massive.
I'm happy with that.
Dude.
That's sick.
But for me, like, what do I need the money for? Like, I'm not a materialistic guy.
Which is good, yeah.
When I started Simplify, or in the middle of it, I had a guy named, I'll leave his name out of it. He was driving a 3 Series to the office, and I just got a Range Rover at the time. And that's a nice car, 3 Series.
Yeah,
a nice car.
yeah. Freaking very modest car,
the type of person that I am, though. It's like, we got him a Porsche. You know
I remember seeing something like that.
Yeah.
We got him a Porsche 2 months later.
Yeah.
And then I moved into a high-rise in the city of where I'm staying.
In Tampa, yeah.
And he was living in like uptown homes, like a apartment village area, whatever. I moved him into the same floor, a couple of doors down, in the same
That's
building.
fucking awesome, dude.
You know what I mean? So that is the best feeling, I think, out of like having success, is seeing other people get lifted up. And then inevitably what happens is just like everyone's just lifting each other up. You know what I mean?
You're right.
This is one guy we met. He runs a credit repair company. Shout out James.
James. Yeah.
He said it best. He goes, what is it?
He goes, competition happens on the bottom, collaboration happens on the top.
Yeah, that's actually really good. That's really good.
I love that line.
You see that happen a lot. It's like people are trying to gatekeep, or they just
it's like, for what?
You'd be shocked that like so many people that think that they're stuck in like a business situation.
Right.
How many answers they could solve by just picking up the phone and cold calling
a friend,
10 businesses, or showing up to like high level people's businesses and asking them, and they'll give you the answer. Like their mind's stopping them. They just think like everybody's out to get them, or don't want to give them the answer.
Right.
I think that's absolutely correct. It's collaboration.
That's a great.
It's a massive thing. I think that's the one thing we realize now. Like, that's what we're just trying to connect with. Humble-minded people, have that big mindset. You know, we obviously want to achieve our own financial success, but also kind of give people an outlet to like share their stories, right? And be able to reach a bigger audience. Because you'll be so surprised. I'm sure there's a lot of people in your spot right now that are gonna hear this and be like, shit, it's possible. It's just being around the right people. Maybe move out of state. Fuck it, go to Florida. You know,
I think that's a very big part of it, like getting out of your environment, just like changing it up.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, I told you I was going to mention this earlier with Luly, but when I first started Luly, I interviewed like, let's say 25 different teams to build with me. And I took an Excel sheet, and I put the same questions down, and I took their answers. Then I cross-referenced the answers as far as how much they're going to charge me, what the time frame is, what it all entails. And I found out who's lying very quickly. Then I did my second round of interviews, and I took the top 3 people that I liked.
Right.
And I had them build the product.
Oh, shit.
And I took the highest quality of product and the highest quality of service, and now that person's still with me. Most people wouldn't do that because they don't want to pay for a project 3 times at the beginning.
Absolutely,
But I'd much rather pay the project 3 times.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
And lose
Always
a bunch of money now, and then know what I'm in for later, and I'm not just going to be into some bullshit. You know, the house
exactly.
collapse.
Damn.
Let me ask you this. I have a big question because like this is, I feel like, a future now, and then I want to ask you. I actually want to get into the wiener dog farm after this. I think
What is that about?
You'll see in a second.
All right.
So, what are your thoughts right now with DeepSeek, ChatGPT? You got Grok AI. In some ways, the technology built under the same kind of like the same
Framework?
foundation as Luly.
Good question, Tom.
I mean, I can't say exactly what we're using, but
Of course, it's proprietary,
We work with GPT, Claude, a couple of different other APIs, and we just stack them together. Where I'm working mostly on, what I'm mostly interested on, is how many data points we can collect and the back end architecture to what we're doing. But like I said, I'm not a software engineer myself.
Of course.
All right, guys, I'm not a software
You're the
engineer.
guy with the vision and tell people like what you're looking for, right?
Yes, and without them, none of it would be possible.
Of course.
So I have really smart people that are way smarter than me in these aspects, and I just hire specialists and stay out of their way.
Yeah.
All right, so I couldn't even tell you half of what we have going on.
Got it. That makes sense.
And I tell my guys, like, I don't want to know about certain things.
No.
And if they're asking me questions to what is not in their lane and what they shouldn't know, I'm kind of like, my head's like, why do you have so much free time?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like, I don't even want to know about this because I have so many other things to deal with.
Yeah,
that are
exactly.
important. I need to conserve mental energy for.
How many employees do you have now, by the way?
It just varies. I mean, we have let's call it like a dozen.
A dozen. Okay, fair.
There's like our team in the U.S. We have one guy who already sold the data business on. He just has pictures on the NASDAQ. Sold it for a few $1 million.
Cool, dude. So sick.
And he's working for like a Zillow.com / type of thing for cars.
Yeah.
Then we have a guy who's working at Amex. We have another guy who is was a data analyst / security like research for Vanguard. And he's full time with us as well. And then most of our team's overseas.
So Frank, I wanna ask you this question because I feel like a lot of people, they want to start a business. You're obviously a successful business owner. maybe you picked up some of this knowledge from your uncle per se, but
all aspects of my life, definitely growing up.
so he had
My mother,
Uncle-
my father,
Uncle Frank.
my uncle, honestly, all of them, just all in their own aspects and completely opposite
Influence.
sides
they
of
all
the
have they
spectrum.
all have to mark on
Dude,
you.
God bless him, man.
So this is something that we're even coming to the crossroads at now. In the very near future, we want to register our brand as an official business for obvious reasons. There's plenty of reasons as to why you would do that. So I want to ask you, are there any business hacks that you could recommend us when it comes to setting up your company, how you set it up, whether it's an LLC, a C Corp, etc.? Like, what kind of insight can you provide us on that?
Well, it wouldn't be a business hack. I would just give you, maybe this is a business hack. Hire the right people, hire specialists, and let them tell you for CPA.
Right.
Yeah.
As far as like any advice I would give to somebody starting a business, what I would have done from the beginning, if I could do it over again, is just have good credit. Like I have my little brother, I'm going to start him on credit very soon.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
going to start an
too.
LLC under his name, probably not give him the password to any of the bank accounts, and get him business credit cards going. You know, so I would say
Did you have good credit before you started your business?
absolutely not. I was just a child with like a $2,000 Chase student card, even though I was
Yeah.
making $200K
That's how
a
it always
year.
starts, though. Yeah.
I was making $200K a year at my job, and I still had a $2K Chase card. And then all of a sudden, I had no work, whatever, for some time, and I started having my business. And out of nowhere, I started making like $30K a month with TD Bank, and they closed me down, and they wouldn't give me an answer.
What?
Yeah, and then
That's wild.
the banks hate you at the beginning of business.
Of course.
They don't really acknowledge you for like 2 or 3 years, but I would say use a service like Fund and Grow. Fundandgrow.com is something that I.
What is that? Is that a way to get funding? I mean, the name is pretty straightforward, but I just
Exactly.
want...
So I pay them $4K a year, and what they do is they apply for credit cards for me twice a year
Okay.
Shit. Yo, that's kind of like
At
what
zero.
our guy, buddy does. James
at
does.
0%. And a lot of people, they say to me like, "Why do I need this money at 0%?" And I'm just like, bro, there's gonna come a point in your business where something's gonna pop
Absolutely.
up.
Yeah, 'cause
Why
you're not-
would you not have a strong?
It's a no-brainer.
It's you're literally it's like 1-to-1 at that point compared if you get like a 30% one. It's like
I mean, look, guys.
Yeah.
There's people that go for business loans, personal loans, 50K, 70K, 100K, right?
Yeah.
I have one Chase card, 0% for 12 months, is 100K. There's one Chase card.
the one chase.
So for
literally-
you
I got I have like
Yeah.
probably 20 cards, 25 cards across 2 LLCs, 3 LLCs. I'm not saying that you don't do anything illegal. There's no there's
Yeah,
no,
right.
there's
Or
nothing
anything reckless
sus going
either,
on,
yeah.
But it's just I have a really great relationship with the banks, and I started out with a 0% card maybe for 20K, and then it turned into a new limit and a new limit and a
Right.
new limit, and then we just ended up merging them all.
That's incredible. And next thing you know, you got a massive credit limit.
Frank,
Exactly.
I'm not gonna lie with you, man. This has been extremely insightful. Before we wrap up, and of course, all these lessons you shared with us, man.
Appreciate it, dude.
I know
really.
I know your dream, and I know we were talking about it off camera, but I want the audience to know. I know you have 3 lovely dogs, all wiener dogs. Run me the logistics on how you want to start this wiener dog farm. I want to get that because I want to be the first person to go to a wiener dog farm.
So as soon as I sell Luly, I'm gonna buy a probably 25-acre compound in Florida. Let me get some water here. Okay.
Over there.
I'm gonna have a 25-acre compound in Florida. I want to have a house or a property for each one of my family members.
Yep.
And I'm gonna build a big barn with 100 wiener dogs and 1 big black Belgian Malinois. And it's gonna be a nonprofit. And I'm gonna register it and everything. I'm gonna hire some like college interns that work at the vet program to come there, and we're gonna just set it up all nice. And there's just gonna be 100 wiener dogs.
That's an awesome dream, dude.
Any good names for it yet?
I mean, any good names for what?
For the
The farm.
nonprofit, for the wiener dog
It's
farm.
going to be called Lucky's Ranch.
Lucky's
Mark my
Ranch.
words. You could save this clip and look.
Listen,
at it.
we're
Gonna
it's
say
gonna be on
this is
YouTube
gonna be,
forever.
This is gonna be a time capsule.
Okay, I mean,
Lucky.
watch. You'll be able to put this. This will go viral in a couple of years, and you'll see that there actually is going to be a fucking barn. It's going to be with my fat wiener dog. There's going to be a statue in front of the barn. You're going to look in the barn. And it's going to be a black Belgian Malinois at the front desk, and you're going to be like, "What the fuck's this scary ass dog?" And
Oh
you're
my
gonna
God.
Turn the corner, and you're going to see 100 wieners just sitting there.
Hold on, where though? What part of? Where are you gonna buy land?
I think around Tampa, Florida.
Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so sick, man. But Frank, man, so much to digest here. I can't wait to give you the clips, man. But it was a pleasure having
Dude,
you.
you've been awesome, Frank. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
dude.
good to see you guys.
I think
Dude.
that the next time you're in Jersey, hit us up. We'll link up again because I think
Yeah,
that
I have
we
more
should do-
time then. you know?
Dude, I feel like there's still so much more to get into. So
I'll have
We
more
gotta-
time then. I think I'm coming back in May for
Yeah.
my sister's wedding. But yeah, like I said to your guys here earlier, is like I respect the shit out of what you guys are doing. You
Appreciate you,
make
man.
this into a nice studio out of your extra room.
Yeah.
There's so many people that want to do what you're doing, but they're so afraid of how many followers or how many views
no.
or where they're doing it. You know what I mean? So I respect anybody that's going out there and going for a certain business or whatever they want to do, and they don't care about the limitations or what society says you need to do. They're just going out there and getting it done, and it's just step by step. So even if it's on a small scale for you guys and it's just a side project, it's really awesome. I respect the shit out of it.
Dude, I love that, bro. Thank you for the words, bro. Dude,
Couldn't have thanked you enough, man.
That's a great note to end on, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you very much again, dude.
See you later, everybody.